Nigeria, a vibrant tapestry of places, people, stories, struggles, and unshakable spirits. Politicians make promises, but who really holds them accountable? I'm Tony Kubara, and this isn't just about politics. This is about us. This is where we confront the hard truths that few say publicly. Hello everyone, welcome to Nigeria Unfiltered. Well. The past few days have been massively eventful on the Nigerian political stage. We've had the death of Muhammadu Buhari, a two-time president who was both a civilian and military head of state. We've had big masquerades, as we call them sometimes, like Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president, leaving his party to join a new coalition. And he's not the only one. And then there's all kinds of ructions going on with the Labour Party and Peter Obi, who is, I think, the most popular politician in Nigeria. But you know what? I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff this week because I feel that I need to switch my focus back to Rivers State, my home state. It's like people have forgotten that Rivers State is still under tyranny. And I need to remind you from time to time that all is not well on my home front. Okay, many of you will recall that on March the 18th, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu imposed a state of emergency on Rivers State because one of his strongest political allies, Nyesom Wike, the immediate past governor of Rivers State and the current minister for Abuja, or Federal Capital Territory, was having a long-running feud with his political son, Sim Fubara, the current governor. Okay? So, now I'm aware that some of the people who watch this podcast are foreigners who don't know the backstory. So I suggest, and some of you are tuning in for the first time. So I suggest that if you want to know what I'm talking about and why all this is kind of important to me anyway, and in fact to many Nigerians, you need to go back and look at previous Nigeria Unfiltered videos, the ones that have been pushed out since March. So, Fubara, the current governor, was suspended. A guy who is not from Rivers State was brought in as the sole administrator, and he's a military man. I think he's a naval officer. And that's very much in keeping with the military rule playbook, because when we had military rule in this country across the board, governors could come from anywhere, but now that we're supposedly practicing democracy, governors are supposed to be indigents of the state they run. Okay, so most Rivers people were outraged by this development, including, I hasten to add, some members of the president's own political party, the APC. Sure, there were a handful of sycophantic traitors who clapped loudly and commended Mr. President for his wisdom. But you always find people like that hovering around political scenarios, selling their souls and embarrassing themselves in a desperate bid to curry favor with the authorities or just make money out of pleasing them. But the majority thought this is just a step too far. And though most people didn't go public as I have to complain bitterly about the situation, there was widespread anger and sadness about Fubara's suspension and the imposition of an outsider who has no affinity with Rivers State. I mean, at least Fubara, even if you didn't vote for him, I mean, I certainly didn't vote for him. But even if you didn't vote for him, at least he's a local boy. He has a bond with the people, at least some of the people. So, unlike this new administrator, who is so frankly unremarkable, I can never remember his full name. It is Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas. He's a retired, I think, naval officer. And, frankly, I didn't really have anything personal against him. I mean, he was brought in to do a job, and most people would accept such a prestigious position. But the thing is that my problem with him is that I don't think he's doing it in a very honorable way. I will apologize to him if evidence to the contrary is produced, but what I'm hearing is that all kinds of scams are going on behind the scenes. For example, massive inflation of contracts that aren't even necessary, like, for example, to install CCTV cameras in Government House. I'm told there are CCTV cameras there already, and the amounts of money being quoted are just ridiculous. So there are other little outrages here and there, like the chairman of the Electoral Commission is also from his state rather than from our state. So people are not happy. They may not be making much noise because Rivers people have been browbeaten into silence, or they're just tired, Very few people have the energy or the time to do what I do, which is constantly complain about things that aren't right. So eventually, Fubara decided to reconcile with his tormentors, Tinubu and Wike. And I decided to run a poll a few days ago asking people whether they agreed with Fubara's decision or not. And the question was, Governor Sim Fubara has ended the long-running political crisis in Rivers State by surrendering to his godfather, Nyesom Wike. What do you think of Fubara's climb down? 63% of respondents said they think Fubara is a weakling and a traitor for caving in so spectacularly to the people who have dishonored our states and disrespected him. And I think he's a coward. That 63% of people basically agree with me. But, 6% of people think he was smart to surrender. And let me say that these 6% are not necessarily bad people. Maybe they just think it's better to douse the tension and avoid any more gra-gra that will undermine the economy of the state and even have security implications. So the third category of respondents said they didn't care. So we asked them, do you think he's a weakling and a traitor? Do you think he was smart to surrender? Or do you not care? And 31%, a whopping 31%, one-third, said they didn't care. So these are people who are either have been apolitical all along, or used to care but don't give a damn anymore because the whole thing is such a mess, and it looks like the kind of mess we can do nothing about. We're like under the cosh, we're under the thumb. And some people are quite good at throwing their hands up in resignation and ceasing to care when they face this type of oppression. Anyway, I can't speak for the people who said they didn't care. I don't know why they don't care, but 31% said they didn't care, and 63% have expressed extreme disappointment in the governor. And I hope, by the way, despite his reconciliation with Wike and the president, Sim remains suspended from office, and so the democratically elected governor of Rivers State, at least we were told that he was democratically elected, even though some people say that Wike actually just forced him down everyone's throat. But let's accept that he was democratically elected and say that he continues to sit on the sidelines in a very humiliating position. And I hope he knows that even though polls are not totally reliable always, that a lot of Rivers people are sad that he didn't stay to fight a good fight. Because actually, I think that if he had fought a good fight, he would have won. Then again, all these Rivers people who are not happy with him and are calling him a weakling and a coward and a traitor, what did you do to help him when it was time to stand and fight? Many of you just stood in your houses complaining. Few of you took to the streets to protest with placards. Fubara may have felt at times that he was more or less on his own, apart from a few lone crazy voices like me and some media people who wrote supportive articles in newspapers. So that's my update on the situation in my state. I don't want it to be completely erased from the public consciousness at a time when bigger stories are breaking on the national stage. But, I want you to pray for Rivers State because our economy is dead. Our spirits have been crushed. And I think we deserve a better break. Thank you very much for listening.